Thrilled today to introduce Kaiser Thompson, who is our presenter. We're very fortunate to have his lovely wife, Alice, who is on our Homewood Connected Initiative Committee. And so she connected us and he agreed to do this program. So he is the founder of the Known Collective, an AI consultancy and product development company that works with large corporations and small and medium businesses across multiple industries. And he also founded AI for the Rest of Us, which is a content and training company. Kaiser has spent his career working with blue chip companies, things like Nike, Apple, Disney, things we would all recognize, as well as civic organizations and small businesses, helping them understand their customers, how to reach them, and ultimately how to grow their market share. Kaiser founded the Known Collective and AI for the Rest of Us to help these same organizations understand and implement AI. Throughout all of this, he has taught countless prompting classes, written AI policy, integrated dozens of AI products within companies, spoken at numerous events, and built several custom AI products for both large and small organizations. So without further ado, I'm going to let Kaiser take over and talk about AI.
Okay, great. Thanks for that lengthy introduction. I did not write that. You probably had AI write it, didn't you? There you go. I've taught you well. Okay. I've got a lot to get through. Sorry, I'm going to put on this lav. Hopefully everyone can hear me. And I'm going to speak to the room and also the camera, just to make sure that I guess everyone is involved. I see we've got 21 on here. Great. Okay. Lot of content that I'm about to dump on you. And I did that for a reason. One is this is being recorded, so you can kind of go back and look. Two, this is what I've learned. AI is a wildly complicated topic. However, once you understand some simple parts of it and some, I guess, basic parts of it, it becomes a little bit simpler. So I'm going to go through a good amount of like education, like here's what AI is, and I'm going to throw out a lot of data for you. And then we'll get into some of the, I guess the meat of it, like what can I as a parent do about that? But again, the reason why I'm going with the education first and a lot of education and some heady stuff is because, again, I think the more you understand the technology, the better off you are, or the better you are as you parent your kids. So that's kind of the setup. I'm going to start by just telling you a very quick story, something that happened in December. So in our home, we do Santa, and at our house, and he's at this age where he's asking questions to my wife and I. And one night, it was just the two of us in the kitchen, and he proposed the question to me. He said, I hope no kids are joining, by the way. He proposed the question, is Santa real? And Alice and I had talked about this. We prepare for this moment, so I knew what to do. And we planned for this because it's just the two of us. And so I did what a lot of parents do. I proposed the question back to him. I said, well, what do you think? Do you think that Santa's real? And he said, well, I know he's not real. I was like, oh, that's okay. It took me by surprise. I was like, how do you know he's not real? And he's like, let me show you. I was like, okay. So he proceeded to pull up a computer, and he pulled up Google, and he's walking through Google, and he types in, is Santa real? That in and of itself was a little bit of a shock to me as a parent. But then what happened next actually surprised me even more. He proceeded to click on AI mode as if it was like second nature to him. And then he started just asking it questions like you do if you've used an AI chatbot, and he's just chatting with Google AI mode. So that, to me, as a person who is in this stuff every day, I teach people how to use it. I work with businesses, all that. That was a big surprise to me. And that was like really my wake up moment for this whole thing and kids using it. And my hope today is that you have either had a wake up moment like this, or this presentation is going to be a bit of a wake up moment for you. Because honestly, I don't want to be alone in this. Okay, before we get into the parent stuff, I'm going to talk about what is AI. And what I've learned over the last few years, the more you understand it, the more you understand some nuances of it, the better it is. So if you're like a note taker, this is where like the heavy notes are going to be. So I'm going to talk about the definition. This is my definition for it. I think in the most simplistic way to think, this is the most simplistic way to think about it, is that AI is any kind of technology that allows machines or computers, let's just call them machines, to like simulate human intelligence and problem solving. I just say it's anything that mimics human intelligence. I can probably take this off. That's probably better. So that's my definition. It's not new. This technology feels new. It feels like it's the latest and greatest thing. Some of it is, which I'll explain, but it actually started back in the 50s at this conference in Dartmouth called the Dartmouth College Conference. It's where they came up with the term artificial intelligence. This is basically the birthplace of AI. Then you move into like the 60s, 70s, 80s, you get this machine learning sort of technology, which you probably may have heard of, like big data. When we figured out how to take data and learn a lot from data, that was all like machine learning that was happening. And then in 2017, this big invention happens from Google. It's called the Transformer. No one's ever heard of it. It was like this quiet sort of thing, but it was a big thing that led to where we are today. I'll get into the details of that later. But then now it's like ChatGPT. It's like, okay, wow. And it feels like AI is this new technology, but it is not. It has been around for decades, and I'll explain a little bit more about that. So just so we're on the same page, the technology has also just been in our lives forever. Most recently, Netflix stuff. Before that, credit card fraud, things like the weather forecast on your iPhone. Most of your apps actually use some form of AI, even if you don't really think about it as like your typical AI chatbot. There's still AI behind it. Social media algorithms is a big thing. That's all AI. All the content you see on social media is behind that is an algorithm, which I'm sure you've heard of, and that is all that. What that is artificial intelligence. So let me show you how it all works. This is going to get very complicated. Don't let it get super complicated. So if you think of AI as this big bucket, and you've got all these other things in there, machine learning, you've heard of robotics. Robotics is AI. You've heard of computer vision. Within machine learning, you've got these four things, neural networks. Don't worry about the terminology. And then in 2017, that transformer is invented within this little area. And then what happens is this invention happens, this new invention called large language models, which happens in the middle of that. Large language models is another name for an AI chatbot. That is what you're familiar with. ChatGPT, DeepSeek, even Gemini, Grok, Claude, they are all called large language models. This thing's going to just go and repeat, by the way. Another factor and why this all happened and why this feels like such a shock to the system is that those things you saw on the left side of the screen, those are all just things that have happened over the last 10 years that kind of led to this moment. So it has felt like a bomb, at least to me, I think. Some of you probably, it felt like a bomb has just sort of been dropped on us. It's like, here's this new tool, it's blowing up everything. Everyone's so confused about it. But all of this has been in play or in motion for the last like 50, 60 years. We're just not aware of it as much because this product came to the market, ChatGPT, and it just sort of blew us all away. So, all right, large language models, also chatbots, how do they work? So the simplest way to say this, the simplest way to describe this is that there are these tools that have ingested all of the information that has ever existed out there, meaning anything on the web, any book that's ever been published, any website that's ever been published, anything in public record, anything in your library, anything in basically any TV show, any photo that's online. These tools have ingested those, and they have, if you want to, I'll use quotes here, read all of these documents. And what they have done is they've learned, these machines have learned all these patterns in our language. And it's just like an exceptionally good pattern recognition machine. So when it writes back to you, ChatGPT writes back to you, it is writing back to you because it understands how our language system works. So it's very weird, very alien-like, but that is literally what is happening. But what is actually happening beneath that is that when you are putting a question into a chatbot or you're giving it a task, it comes back to you with a response. What it's quite literally doing is predicting the next word. So very complicated. Let that sink in for a second. They're predicting the next word. And I'm explaining all this to you for a reason. It's going to make sense in a little bit. So this is probably the last heady slide I have. If you think about it, if you were to put words into a machine and you put these words, the sky is, what the machine is doing is predicting the most likely next word in the sentence. In our human language, the most of all human language, it is evaluating all of it, and it's saying blue is 52% most likely the next word in that sentence. So it will put blue as the next word, and then the next word, and then the next word. So behind the scenes, when you're using ChatGPT, that is literally what's happening. It is a word prediction machine. So to some people, that's very confusing. To other people, that's like, that doesn't make sense. To me, honestly, it's both of those things. And it's also kind of amazing to me. It's like, wow, I cannot believe it does that. I can't fully wrap my head around it. But what I kind of can wrap my head around is this idea that if you think about it, these machines are like autocomplete on when you're text messaging and they give autocomplete, or when you're writing emails now. It's like that. It's like autocomplete, but with a PhD in everything. Like the knowledge that these machines have is the knowledge of everything. Every single thing. You put an expert in the room, you line up 10 experts, the knowledge they have in their head, that all that knowledge is in these machines. So they work, and the way these large language models, again, large language models, also called a chatbot, they're synonymous. The way they work is that a human asks it or tells it to do something, and that is called a prompt. Okay, that's where you've heard that word. I'm sure it's pretty common. A prompt, all that is just a set of instructions that you give to a chatbot. That's what you call it. When people say, I prompt the thing, or I'm prompting, it's literally just what you're telling it or what you're asking it to do. And in what I want you to think about as in prompting is that prompting is just like having a conversation. Since these machines were trained on human language and how we have conversations, they're kind of trained to react that way. And they're also trained to take what you say in normal language and then spit back normal language to you. So when you talk to it in normal language, it understands it. You don't have to talk to it in some sort of technical code language, which is what makes these work. And so when you're using these things, you use, plain, clear language, use normal words, colloquial, all these kinds of things that you can do. And AI responds in 4 different ways or with 4 different things. You've seen this happen, I'm sure. Text, images, video, code. That's basically what these things can produce. Complicated, but kind of simple. It just comes back with words, comes back with images, it can come back with video, as you may have seen, and it can come back, and I'll explain some examples of this, and then code, which is a big thing. Okay, last thing on this. These are the major chatbots. When I say large language models, these are the 4 big. There's a few others, but these are really the ones you need to know about. ChatGPT, which a lot of you probably use. Claude is very popular in Gemini. It's built into all Google products. Yes, there are restrictions and things with schools and work and stuff like that. And then there's Grok, which is xAI's tool, which is kind of built into Twitter or X. So those are the big ones. All right. That's the education I've got for you. Questions. I do like to take questions here because there's probably something. No question is a dumb question.
The transformer invention just kind of
Yeah.
open the idea up for all these guys to have large language.
Yes. Yeah. So the question was, did the transformer open it up? Yeah, the transformer was a major technological breakthrough in a research paper that Google just put out there. So when Google put that research paper out there, a ton of people saw that and they're like, oh, wow, this changes everything. We are going to completely shift everything we're doing and build these things. And so that's what kind of happened.
Is one of the 4 better than the other one, or are they all kind of like the same?
Oh yeah, that's like a 2-hour answer. They're all about equal right now. There's at this point, they all, you could argue like you're arguing like nuances at this point. I can tell you, I can advise you on which ones to use based on what you do and what you use it for. But they're all basically the same. They're trying to differentiate, which we'll get into a little bit. Okay.
To what they can produce based on what you're sharing with it.
Well, yeah. So the question is, they're limited to what they can produce based on what you can share. Yes and no. They have ingested all of everything that's public already. So, but in terms of what they can do for you, yeah, it's what you give it. Yes, exactly. So it's whatever you ask it to do or tell it to do. It can only really respond to what you're asking it. And you can also do things like upload stuff into, you can upload documents, you can feed it stuff. Be like, hey, here's the context for my business, do this, or here's my homework, do my homework for me, or here's this essay, the topic of the essay I need to write, and here's my instructions from my teacher, go do it. So that's called context. You want to give it context, but yes, it's reacting to what you give it.
Butler in that it anticipates what you'll need.
Yes, yeah. The comment was, it's kind of like a butler. I've not heard that before. It anticipates what you need. Yes, I will say it's getting a lot better at that too. These machines are understanding intent a lot more. So if you just compared to a year ago, if I just type in something, just like a random thought, it will pick up on a lot of nuances in the thought more than it would a year ago. It would probably understand what I'm trying to get at. But yes. I'm going to just steal that, the butler. Yeah, it's wild. Okay. All right. Kids and AI. So what are kids doing with AI and what should I be concerned with? Those are probably the two biggest questions you have. Kids, they don't need a tutorial. They don't need a presentation like this. They just get on the tool and they figure it out just like any other technology. So that is what is happening. We need to be aware of that. While we might think this is a very complicated technology, kids naturally, unfortunately, or fortunately, I mean, depending on how you look at it, are using these tools and just kind of figuring it out. So, which raises the obvious question for me, and I think for all of us, is like, what are they actually doing with it? What are kids actually doing? So I've got three topics, three major things that I'm going to walk through. And I think these are the three biggest, I won't say issues necessarily, of just like topics that you need to be thinking about as a parent. There are 4 or 5, I mean, there's a fourth and a fifth, I'm sure, but these are the three biggest ones. So there's first one's learning. So that's schoolwork, homework, which I'll talk about. And then content, like what are they creating? How are they creating stuff with this technology? And then companionships, which is, I've given this a similar talk before. This is sort of the surprise one and probably the most important one. So learning, what's happening? This is where I've got some data to share. So be aware of that. So when I talk to parents and educators, when I talk to teachers, or when I talk to people on school boards, I get the same kind of concern or worry every single time. It's the first question is like, are kids even learning anymore? Is this completely changing education? Are they just cheating? Which is a completely fair concern. So let's start there. There's some data on this, very interesting data. So Pew Research, this is from earlier. All this is pretty recent data, but it's from 2025. 26% of teens using ChatGPT for schoolwork. That's double what it was in the year before. My guess is that's going to keep. People are saying that's doubling every year, which is kind of wild. This one more interesting from UC Irvine. If they just broke down 9 to 17-year-olds, 63% are using it for homework. So it is happening a lot. I think kids are using the tools a lot. Cheating, again, hot topic du jour almost. I feel like it's always talked about, this cheating a problem. The short answer is from the data that it's not a problem as much as it has been. Like it's the same problem it is now than it was 5 years ago, which I find kind of fascinating. I've looked into this study. I've read this study because it really kind of blew me away a little bit. The short version of it is that 60-70% of kids cheated in the last month. They've run this survey for, I think, over 10 years. It's the same figure that it was 10 years ago. So I think, I mean, this is just a hypothesis, and I think this actually is part of their hypothesis as well, is that the cheating is going to happen no matter what. Certain kids have a propensity towards cheating. I'm not an expert. Some of you are experts in the room at this. But I think that if you're going to cheat, you're going to find the tool to cheat with it. Does this allow you to cheat more efficiently or easier? Yeah, sure. So this may change and this percentage may go up, but I don't think actually cheating is the major issue here. This is someone that ran the study, Victor Lee.
Somebody comment.
So you can read the quote. And I personally, I think when you think about it, it makes sense. Like cheating's always been about things like pressure, time constraints. It's like probably a personality thing, lack of support, other things. Like the kids are going to cut corners 5 years ago are going to definitely use ChatGPT. Before that, they were using Chegg. So again, tools change, behaviors don't. We'll see. We'll see what happens with the data. But here's what I see as the bigger issue. There's a fancy term out there called cognitive offloading, and it's definitely something for us parents to pay attention to, for our kids and frankly for ourselves. Probably more so for ourselves, but definitely for kids. The basic gist of it is that when you rely on a tool to do your thinking, you get worse at the thinking. It's fairly straightforward, and there are other examples of this, which I'll talk about in a second. But this research study I did from Swiss Business School, this massive sort of research project on this. The short of this is that it just showed heavy AI usage. They had people use, including kids, use AI, and that what it showed was a heavy AI usage had a strong negative correlation. It's not a causation thing, but it is a correlation thing with critical thinking skills. And so the more people use the tool, so this is how it plays out, more you use the tool, the worse you are at how you're able to critically think. And I don't think that this means that all AI use is bad. The research actually is just suggesting that an excessive reliance on the tool or on this technology is what's bad, not necessarily like moderate use. But for kids who are still developing and their brains are still developing and they're still developing these skills, in the first place, that's where I think it gets to be a little bit concerning. This is what I meant by this is where we've seen it in the past. It's like, and everyone brings up the calculator. I think AI is way more powerful than a calculator, but it's just to show you an example, like these tools, like GPS. This is a real thing. Studies have been done on GPS. Like, we are not great directionally anymore as humans. We just aren't. This third thing is there's a thing called the Google effect, which is an actual thing in science where it's like that we know less information now, but we know more about where to go get information, which is, it's not necessarily a bad thing. But this is kind of what is happening, I think, with AI and what is going to happen over the next 10 years. And I think it could be a pretty big problem. Again, for adults and kids. I think it's going to be a problem for us. I've been using these tools for a while, and you kind of feel it happening when you're offloading your thinking to a machine. Naturally, it's like muscles. You have to work your muscles out. The more reps you have, the stronger you are. Same with your brain. The more reps you have with thinking, the stronger your brain is. So I think it's obviously very important in kids. I think that's, everyone understands that. So, okay, I personally, maybe a controversial opinion, I don't think the solution is to ban AI completely with kids. I think it's adding guardrails on it, yes, and I think it's teaching kids when to use it, when not to use it. Now, when I say kids, I'm using that broadly on purpose. We'll get into some specifics in a little bit about age ranges, but I don't see it as a like, hey, let's ban this thing. And there are ways to use AI, I think, for schoolwork and homework besides just having it write an essay. And I'll show some examples in a bit. I think that there are ways. I think what we see a lot of times, where the world sees is like the headlines, like the cheating headlines, and the schools are broken because of AI. But there are lots of nuances to that, and I think that it's important. But that's my take on this. Okay, content creating with AI, another very large bucket. We'll get into some fun and some heavy stuff in this one. So my daughter Rosemary. She loves this thing in Google called Nano Banana. Super weird name. In fact, side note, another presentation for another day. The names of these products are awful. And so just you got to bear with these product names. It's so weird, but they're image generators called Nano Banana. You type something in like a cat wearing a tuxedo, riding a skateboard, which is something that Rosemary has done. And there it is. She thinks it's hilarious. And honestly, I mean, it kind of is fun. It's entertaining. Okay. She's not alone. Third of teens have used AI image generators, mostly probably Google. ChatGPT has a pretty good one now, but Google's always had sort of the top of line one. So I think a lot of kids are getting access through their regular Google accounts. 22% have used AI video generators. Again, Google's sort of ahead of the game there, just in case you're wondering. ChatGPT has one. Not everyone has an image generator, but they are using them. And there's another stat that I don't think it's on the slide, that I think it's 2/3 of teens say that AI, from some survey, that AI has actually improved their imagination and creativity, for what it's worth. So What are kids creating? I'll skip over this real quick, but you may have heard of this. If you've heard of the term Italian brain rot, like you're shaking your head. It's like this came from AI. They're literally creating this whole trend around mixing characters, and I don't know. I mean, I kind of get it, but I don't get it. But this is where things like Italian brain rot, and I can go on with 5 other things, but this is where it comes from. Image generators, song generators, video generators. It's like a thing. You'll start to see way more of these types of things. And again, I don't think that it's a problem. I think actually the larger problem is this. I think it's the slop. So word of the year last year from Merriam-Webster was slop. Probably saw this. It's referring to this like flood of low quality, mass produced AI content that's just out there. It's in your feeds. If your kids are on social media, it's in their feeds. It's all over. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And it's just all kinds of different things, like some things I've just showed you. And I think this is an issue, and I think that this is going to become a societal issue. The bigger thing that I've seen with kids, though, and the real problem, I think, is that when everything might be fake, and this is kind of me a little bit on my soapbox, but when everything might be fake, then nothing really feels real anymore. And that's we're all experiencing as adults, of course. But if we, again, put ourselves in our kids' shoes, they're growing up with this stuff. And it's like, oh, it's just fake. It's fake. We just created it. It's fake. So when you have stuff out there, there's like a big problem that's happening. There was this great study by Pew, a different study that I mentioned earlier, and this is in 2024. So I would think that this is much higher, but teens are saying 35% of teens are saying that AI will make it harder to trust information online. There's other data too. This is just one of the things I pulled that I thought was pretty interesting. But I think the trust erosion is a big deal. And I'm going to talk about this in a little bit about what you can do about that next. But I think as parents, we need to be very, very aware of this, that their content consumption, and I'm talking like YouTube kids. I'm talking about kids who probably have super high controls over their devices. They'll still come across fake, and again, not necessarily bad things, but just fake, just AI generated stuff that again contributes to this whole idea of like, oh, it's fake, or oh, it's generated by AI, which we don't know what's going to happen to kids and how they think about things and content, especially. But I think it's really about, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but getting curious with them about this, like talking to them about it, like showing them fake things. I personally think having my daughter or having my son sit with me and create images on there is actually educational, because it's like, oh, I could just create any image I want. Oh, this could be, and like talking to her about it, like these tools can create anything. Like when you're reading something online, when you're older, or seeing the news, you should have critical thinking, like all that kind of stuff, I think will be important. And I think that, again, I know we know this as adults, especially right now, it's just so complicated. And I think educating them and showing them these tools and how they work is probably the most helpful thing we can do right now. Okay, other thing, this is where it gets a little bit dark. So I think that's something that we need to hear, and you're probably also reading some about this. So CSAM, it's like basically AI generated, it's child sexual abuse material, and kids are using AI tools to create fake nude images of their classmates. It's exploding. You've seen things like this. This stat was just mind-blowing to me. This is just reports to where you report these things to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. In 2023 is 4,700 reports, and the first half of last year's almost 500,000. And that's probably going up, and it's a jump. And that's because, again, it's because of these tools. It's easier to create these things. And so you're getting more reports about this stuff because you're seeing more stuff out there online. And it's leading to something actually that's really a little bit disconcerting. Another disconcerting thing is like deepfake bullying. So deepfake bullying is when kids create, some of you know this in the room who are educators, it's just creating other pictures of kids and in weird situations or nude photos, and then it's using them to bully other kids. This RAND study's interesting. 1 out of every 5 middle school principals dealt with this last year, and then 15% of students know about explicit AI generated images of a classmate. That's kind of crazy. And again, I think this is out in the public. This is becoming more public. At least it has been over the last few months. And there are things that that are being done about it. But like all things in government, it's just slow. It just moves slowly. Like things just move slowly, and this is moving very, very quickly. So this is a thing that is happening, and it's a big thing. I'm gonna skip over this slide. Oh yeah.
Those on
Yeah.
the Nick, the take it down.
Yeah. So there, I think you're gonna send in a follow-up. Is that right?
It's
Yeah.
in the chat.
Oh, it's in the chat. Okay. Yeah, there is in the chat. So the question is, okay, what do I do about this? So there is a website and it's in the chat that you can go to and report. And that's where all those reports are. There's 440,000. They're all coming from a site like this. And I think there are a couple others, but that's the main one in the chat. And so if one of your children or a child, goes through this, they are required to take the platforms where these images are or where they're created. If they're online anywhere, they're required to take them down within 48 hours. That's the law right now, which is actually being fairly enforced. That doesn't necessarily change if it's being messaged around with other kids, obviously, but like Snap, a common message, tool, they are part of this. They're required to remove images when you report the images. They have 48 hours to do it. So that is a thing that you can do as a parent. Okay. Companionship. They're becoming a big thing within the world of AI, especially with kids. This is the topic that most, I think, people and parents are surprised about when I bring it up. If I were ranking these three issues, personal opinion here, I think this is the biggest issue. Obviously, the deep fake bullying and all that is very big deal. But I think this is one of those bigger issues that might sneak up on us like social media did. I think that this is, there are just certain elements of this whole idea of companionship. And I'll get into what it is in a second. But first, the stat, because I like stats. 72% of US teens have tried an AI companion at least once. Of those 72%, I believe it's more than half of those kids are using them weekly. So they're chatting with an AI companion weekly, and then something like a little bit above 10% are doing it daily. And then another 20% a few times a month. So it's becoming a thing. You're probably wondering, what is an AI companion? It's not Siri. It's not Alexa. Sorry if your Siri just went off. It's not Alexa. It's not a homework helper. It's not a voice assistant. AI companion is literally a chatbot, a large language model. It's a large language model, which I talked about earlier, which is literally programmed and designed for personal relationships. So like think friendship, think emotional connection, think boyfriend, girlfriend, think a counselor or a substitute parent, like things like that. And so in some cases, romance. And what happens is, just like any chatbot, you talk to it, it talks back. It is programmed to talk back to you in certain ways. And so there are tools, and I'll show you which ones in a second, where they're just designed to be sycophantic, which is a fancy way of saying they agree with you. They're not going to push back on you. They're not going to judge you. They're going to go along with whatever you're saying. They're going to be a friend to you, all that kind of stuff, which we all know. I don't need to tell people in the room that is not healthy. It's not healthy for adults. It's certainly not healthy for kids. But I think that is a thing that is happening right now, and these tools that are being developed like this. Okay, there are two main flavors of AI companions. There are avatar-based ones like Replica. I think there's some other ones. Nomi AI, Chai AI is another one. And these are like, hey, I'm going to create you an avatar. It's like very human-like, and they can do voice calls with you. They can do text with you. They talk verbally. I've done Replica. My wife knows this, and just to experiment with it a couple of months ago because I was writing about it. It's wild. It's very wild. Now it's 18 plus. I'll talk about more ages in a little. It's like an 18 plus tool, and some of these tools are have restrictions on them, of course. But just anyway, this is Replica. Then there's like chat-based or text-based chat-based, which is Character AI. Very big, popular one. This is where you can kind of create your own character, or you can choose from a menu, which I'll show you in just a second. And both are really all about, both of these are really designed, programmed to be like forming a bond with you. Now, again, they're made for adults. And I'm not saying these are like evil because they're like going after kids. That's not at all what I'm saying right now. But Character AI has gotten in trouble for lots of kids using it. In fact, they had a 13 plus policy that they just recently last month or 2 months ago changed to 18 plus because lots of things happened in terms of including like getting sued and stuff like that. So where do you find AI companions? So those are the two types. Let me sort of shift a little bit. Where do you find all these things? And sorry for the small text, but okay, that's what I just talked about. Standalone apps, Replica, Character AI, Chai, all these. There's standalone apps. These are the most popular ones. If I give this presentation in a month, that list might be different. Just right now, this is what they are. They will continue to pop up, and kids can continue to find them. And they might be finding them, you know, but anyway, these are the standalone. You have to download it on your phone or you go to a website. So they have to like get to it. And you have to, if you don't have parental restrictions on it, they can find them. The second, and this is the one that people miss. And this is probably the most important one for parents. And the most people are like, no way. I tell them this. Okay, Snap has a thing called My AI. And any kid without the setting turned off can get in there and either create their own little chatbot or they can choose. So you can choose different chatbots. Like I know of a high schooler not in this district who needed to work through like a rough thing with their parents and chose like this. It was like a Christian chatbot. It was like Christian-based chatbot. I was like, oh, that's kind of nice. I was like, oh. So, and then there's another one. It's like you can have a romance, you know, with it. And these live in Snap, and I know a lot of kids are on Snap. Meta AI within Instagram. So Meta owns Instagram, WhatsApp, Facebook. All of those tools have something called Meta AI and they're available. And so if you have kids that are on any of these apps, you can change the setting where these things are turned off. And they're not supposed to be turned on for anyone under the age of 18. However, there have been lots of reports and stuff, and people have tested them out. That's not always the case. And you have to be very aware of things like that. Okay, in TikTok, of course, probably not surprised that they have AI. And then the big AI tool. So this is another kind of slightly surprising one. So like ChatGPT, Grok, Gemini, you can get on there now and start talking to it like you need some help and like you need a friend. And it will talk back to you like that. And it will, if you tell it, hey, I need a friend, or hey, I need a boyfriend, or hey, I need you to act as my boyfriend. ChatGPT will do that. So even kids using it on their main systems, you have to be aware of, they could be in a, this is going to sound very dramatic, they could be in a relationship with ChatGPT if they have access to ChatGPT or whatever, or chat, they call it chat. So, okay, those are the three main ways to find it. Now, here's the thing. Here's what we all think need to understand as parents. And again, this is a little soapboxy, but I think it's true. I think anyone in this industry who knows anything would tell you the same thing. That the playbook that is playing out right now is a very similar playbook to what happened with social media. And that's where my concern is as a parent, and should be yours too, and as educators. The idea there is you maximize engagement. So a tech company, and I'm in this world, so like I'm talking about myself here. A tech company, their main job is to make money, right? Just like any company. The way they make money is that they have users on their platform for longer periods of time. So that's the name of the game. So when they go and present to their board, the numbers are revenue. And then the second number that they present is, this is how many people are on our platform for a number of minutes a day. That's all I care about. It's like the money. And again, not evil necessarily. I'm just saying those are the figures they look at. So what's happening, I think, with these, or no, I don't think, I know this because they've said this and it's been in some court documents, that their whole idea is like, we need as many users on our platform as possible, because that's how we make more money. When we have more users, we get more funding, all that kind of stuff. That's just kind of what's happening right now. And that is a concern of mine as a parent, because we're entering into the same thing we just, or not just went through, we're still in with social media. It's the same sort of thing that's happening. And I think as parents, we need to just be ahead of this. And that's just something for people to know. All right, I'm gonna give you an example of this. Now, this is not to single out Elon Musk or X. I'm just saying this is probably the most like egregious of them. And he's also very open about this and just like, oh, he's okay with it. So, but this Grok's Annie. So Annie, this was a big deal 3 or 4 months ago. I don't think it got enough attention, but he's got this, or there's this companion on there. It's like a video game. It's called Annie. You access it through Grok, not through Twitter. So if you have a child that's on X, and I know athletes are on there to try to put out their video, they're getting recruited by schools. I know that's a big thing. You cannot access it through X/Twitter. You have to download Grok or go to grok.com, just so you know. But if you have an account, what we found out, and I tested this too, you find out if you have a Twitter account, and even if you're 15 years old, you can sign into Grok. So you can sign into Grok, and then within Grok, there's this thing called Annie. And I've done this, and it's bananas. You go and you talk to it, and it rewards you for talking romantically to it, or like getting to know, and she's more friendly with you and things like that. So I'm not trying to scare anybody with this. I'm just trying to tell you like what is happening out there to maximize engagement. Like there are these like things, like it's an avatar, Annie, that's who it is right there. And the idea is to like have a bond with this avatar. That is happening right now. And that's just a concern. The thinking is that this will change soon. Where a lot of people are pushing for this to change to 18 up and more restrictions. But again, it's literally like you can go to the site right now and you can see this. Okay, I want to show you something. A few weeks ago, I screen recorded. This is my phone, so it doesn't have any screen time protections on it. But I do want to show you, like, if there's a child who doesn't have, this is how easy it is to get on there. So I downloaded Character AI. And I signed in as my 10-year-old Timothy, as if I were him. I used his name, his age, his email address to get into. Yeah. So yeah, my wife has not seen this yet. Again, this is email. No. I entered my age. This is what I'm trying to show you. If a kid is signing up for this, this is literally what happens. Again, not to scare anybody, but this is. When people say it's easy for kids to access it, I'm trying to show you what I mean. And then I'm also trying to show you how this tool works. This is 20 million users, Character AI. They are very coy about how many of those users are under 18. But the guess is, and I'm not joking about this, like very reputable sources have said that it's half of their users, 10 million, are under the age of 18. They built it originally as a kids app. And I'm just telling you, this is what happens. And I know probably a lot of these people, a lot of you listening and then here in the room, or have restrictions on your kids' phones if they have a phone or an iPad. And they will not be able to get to this if they have the right restrictions on now that they changed it to 18 plus. It was, again, 12, and you could download it if you're 12 years old. But now it's 18 plus. So if you have those restrictions, they won't be able to do this. I'm just telling you, though, if they don't, or if they get access to your phone, like what they don't know. This is just a demo. I know. But so this is what happens, or what could happen. All right. I think that's enough of that. But here's another big one. Then we're going to move on. I feel like I'm alarmist here, but it's really important for us to know. We're probably reading these headlines. Again, engagement playbook, I think, playing out here. You've read reports about teen suicides. You've probably seen this. You've probably seen this positive movement with attorneys general signing up. A lot of stuff is happening in the political sphere, I guess in the legal sphere, I should say, government sphere, trying to get bans and trying to do the right thing with these tools. I think Jonathan Haidt, Anxious Generation author, he's playing a part in this. And so there's a lot of momentum, which is great. I think, though, we'll probably continue to see things like this happen. And I think that these big tech companies, we just have to be aware of what our kids are doing on them, just to make sure that they have the right protections in place. Again, I know a lot of people are probably confused, like, oh, is it my kid? You're probably wondering, or maybe you're looking at their screen time right now. If they have the right restrictions on, and it shows the right age on their iPhone and all that, they're not going to get access to this. So don't worry about it. But we all know how savvy kids are, and we all know how they can get on our phones or our computers and stuff like that. And so I'll talk about a little bit about what we can do about it. But I know I thought I mentioned this, or I said I mentioned this earlier, but the age, this is always a question, like, what are they? This is what they are right now. These are kind of the big ones that I've mentioned. I will say enforcement's basically non-existent. I tried to show you that in the Character AI one. Like, you can just make up a birthday. Like, you can go on there and do it. There's no right now enforcement where you have to like show an ID. So a lot of the things that are being proposed right now are like literally you have to take a photo of your ID to get on some of these. Or some companies have this ironically AI technology where they scan your face and they tell your age. Roblox is doing things like that. You probably read about that. So a lot is happening, but from everything I can read and see and hear and experts talk to, it's like, it's just slow because I think the playbook is what's happening is like, no, we'll fix it when it's broken. Like we'll fix it when we get complaints. And then that's when we'll change. But right now, but there are age restrictions on these things. And I hope, I mean, the arguments for and against like ID checks and things like that because of privacy. But I think over the next few months, especially, and certainly over the next few years, there will be a big movement for this, and you should join the movement. I don't know what the movements are, but all right. So some signs of progress, like I said, some seem to be catching up. Even ChatGPT is trying to catch up. Claude, Anthropic, it's probably the safest tool out there. Honestly, they want nothing to do with kids under the age 18. You cannot. They have a lot of restrictions. That's just not their business model. I'm a big fan of Claude. Character AI, I already mentioned that, and then the federal law, I already mentioned that as CSAM. Like there are things that are happening. These are all within the last few months, really. OpenAI's just announced some big thing that they're about to do. They just haven't announced what it is. So I think that there will be like a kid version of ChatGPT. There's already kind of a kid version of AI mode within Google. Like kids, there's heavily protected. So that's what's happening. All right. Take a little breath here. I've got some advice. I've got some thoughts. I've got some positive thoughts, and I've got some advice for us, and then we can do some questions. So I'll go through this quickly because some of this is just, we're all intelligent adults, and some of this you can probably pick up on. I'll just share my opinion being in this whole world and having been in this whole world for the last few years. And really, as I've shared, like, talking to my kids about it, like using these things with my kids, like this is what I think. I mean, I do think that there are very positive applications to this tool, and it can be a gift of a technology. And that's not because I'm an AI homer. It's just because like I truly believe this and I've experienced it. Like I think that it'll be great for creativity, exploration, like using your imagination, like all that kind of stuff. Making learning actually fun. No offense, like making it fun. Learning. I think that there are ways to do that. So speaking of, just another example, more positive. 2 months ago, she was working on her multiplication tables. Third graders, that's what they do. As most of you know, like most kids, not at all thrilled about it. She was very frustrated. Was like, I don't want to do multiplication. So I opened up Claude and asked it with her, and I asked it to build her a multiplication game. We sat down for probably max of 10 minutes. It may have been like 8 minutes. We created this game. Like she chose the colors, Rosemary's what unicorn, multiplication game, Rosemary's Unicorn Rainbow Quest. That's what it's called. So you can choose. And so literally less than 10 minutes, I had it do this. I didn't tell it any of this. I just said, hey, my daughter's learning multiplication tables. Can you create a cool game to, give her rewards? And, one of the rewards is like puppy. And she's like, I don't want puppies. I want gems. And like, so we just created this whole thing. And she was like, oh, this is great. I love this. And so for several weeks, she was like, I want to play the game. I want to get gems. And so it's, you gamified, you get a sparkle. So point is, this stuff can be used for like really, really cool and really good things, in my personal opinion. And this is if you were to break it down into like do's and don'ts from me. It's like homework help, great, learning games, practicing conversations, which I haven't really talked a lot about, but you may have questions about that. And then relationship stuff, I'm just like, no go, just for adults too. But it's just not super, just not worth it at this point. Okay, I've got 5 actions. All right. I think the best thing you can do, the number one thing you can do as a parent, and this is based on my experience, is this: use the tools. Download Chat if you don't have it. Download Character AI. Don't get on Replica, but get all the other tools. Go into Snap and look at My AI. All these things you should do. See what your kids see or will see. And my opinion, you can disagree with this, but I don't think that kids under the age of 18 should have access to AI companions that are designed for any kind of relationship. Now, Chat will hopefully have kid restrictions very soon. Gemini, they already have them, and they're fine. I think you're fine with that. But you should be monitoring what they're doing on there. That's, again, I say this a lot, my opinion, I just don't think it's the smartest thing to do. Okay. Talk to your kids. We all know this. I'm not going to teach you how to be a parent, but this is like the most important thing to do is just have conversations with the kids. And then number 4, and this is probably the most important one. Again, I'm not going to go on this, but you all know this. We have a problem with loneliness. We have a loneliness problem. I think if I were to have another hour with you, I'd probably talk a lot about this. So like the reason why we're having all these problems, the reason why we're creating all these tools and the kids are really liking it and adults is because of this. So that's one thing. Again, this is not a parenting class. But the 5th is just, I would also be very smart as parents and think very intentionally about what is a tool and what's a crutch. I mentioned cognitive offloading earlier, like crutch. It's like when you're using it to think, when you're using it to write essays, when you're using it to do like the deep stuff, that is a crutch, right? When you're using it to replace a relationship, like that's a crutch. A tool is like a homework helper, like a tool you want to create that helps you with multiplication, things like that. I think that is very important thing to do. And so I'm not advocating for, us to ban AI or even wait for it. I sort of stand in the middle of like, hey, there's some really great things with this technology. And then there's also things that we really need to be considering, especially moving forward and today even. And that's just where we are. So I've got a couple more, but I think I should end on this. I don't think the kids are doomed. I think this presentation, this talk can sometimes feel like that. There's just a lot of negativity around it. I just think it's incredibly important for us to get ahead of it. And I think it's incredibly important for us to understand it because in some ways this is a little bit of a defeatist mentality, but the ship sailed, like the technology's out, like it's here, it's not going anywhere. I'm really, really hoping that there are more and more restrictions placed on them. And I'm trying to get involved in that. Y'all should get involved in that too. I just think that we've got work to do, and I just don't want to be in the situation 10, 15 years from now that we are in with social media. So there you go.
Okay. So from the audience, if we have any questions, do you mind if we borrow your mic?
Yeah, go. Yeah.
Because I know that we've got one question.
And I can also repeat the question. I can just repeat the question.
Okay, yeah, but the response might be from some other people, though, is all.
Oh, right. Yeah. Do that.
So you talked about AI as a therapist or counselor.
Oh, yeah.
So what are your concerns for that specifically?
So as a non-therapist or counselor, I don't feel super educated on talking about that. So I'll just speak as like a parent of a child. And mind you, my wife and I have not talked about this or agreed on this. So my opinion might change. But I don't think that this should ever replace a therapist. I don't think AI should, or I don't think it can. I think there are definitely companies out there building tools that are trying to do that. I personally believe in just the human connection. There's so many things that I don't have time to get into about like sitting across from a human. That said, there are 2 areas I think right now, I'm going to say I think, I'm still processing this, still figuring this out, where I think it could be advantageous or beneficial. Rural areas, low income where there's no access. I think there could be something there that could supplement therapy. I even think that there could be something that supplements current therapy. And I don't know what that looks like. I don't think it's just ChatGPT or Gemini getting on there and figuring it out. I think there are tools that are being created right now by people who are trying to do it right, who are trying to create tools that supplement therapy, supplement counseling, I shouldn't say supplement, like complement, or they're like tools that maybe take like an extra, like a counselor wants to do something with a child during the week, like exercises. Maybe it's something like that. So that's my take on it. But I know there's a lot of development happening in that right now, and you'll see over the next 5 years, most likely there's going to be a lot of stuff that's released and out there.
And we do have like our mental health services counselor, Katie, is
Yeah.
here. Hey, do you want to share your thoughts? Do you mind using this mic to share that so that everybody can hear it?
No. So one of the things that you touched on that I think was one of the headlines was that there have been some situations where young people have relied on character AI or even ChatGPT for help when they were feeling suicidal or having a mental health crisis. And they've there have been students who have taken their own lives because of conversations they've had with ChatGPT or Character AI, even though there are supposed to be those guardrails built into them. And families have sued and have really advocated for changes. Another concern is students who may be at risk of having some symptoms of psychosis, so hallucinations or delusions. And this is different from what we hear sometimes about AI hallucinations. It's not, this isn't AI making things up. This is a person starting to experience those symptoms. And I'm so glad that you're talking to parents about checking what their kids are looking at, so that we don't find ourselves in that position.
Yeah. So thanks, Katie. One of the questions also in this advanced questions or something was, how do you know when your kid is in a relationship or going too deep or something like that? I mean, that's a parenting thing. That's like a one-on-one thing. And just being aware of what your kid's behavior. And so obviously check what they're doing, check their chats. Again, like I said, OpenAI, the big thing they put out like last week, I read it. It's a really long document, like some of the parental restrictions they're going to start doing is like, as a parent, you can see all of their their chat transcripts. If they're under the age of 18, they haven't done this yet. This is just what they're like probably going to do. So that type of stuff. But two bigger points to make, just so we're clear on something. I didn't really hit this at the beginning that hard, but so all this happened in 2022 because of this whole idea of the transformer, and they built these tools and they released them. A little fun fact. When ChatGPT released their product, it was a very big shock to everybody in the industry because no one thought that anyone was going to release one of these things to the public before they were like properly tested and all that. So what happened was all the other tech companies, and this is public knowledge, I'm not just like conspiracy theorists, it's all true. All the other companies had to do that. They had to like, oh, we have to release our model or finish our model and release it. So it all just kind of got dumped on us. When I said earlier, like a bomb got dropped on us, quite literally that's what happened. And so what is happening right now is that all the other like guardrails, unfortunately, they're catching up, all that stuff. Or another way to put it is like, those are coming. They just didn't put them on there when they released the things. And so you're having these issues with kids and adults where it's like you're having conversations with it. And this was in an earlier version of ChatGPT, especially, where it was just like a sycophantic, agreeing with you. And when you bring up suicidal thoughts, their systems were supposed to flag them, but they didn't. And so it led, I mean, you can go search the stuff. Like you can see the chat transcripts because the parents released it, but it's like, it agreed with it. And it, did things, hate to say this, like told them how to do it, like stuff like that, where that happened with ChatGPT 4.0, which is a model that's still actually available, but they've changed it. And I'm just sharing that bigger point of like, that's the world we live in right now, even in 2026, where these tools were released too soon and the restrictions that they're putting on are just like coming after the fact, which is the sad part about it, a very, very sad part about it. But again, I'm hopeful that a lot of these restrictions will be put in place and are already being put in place.
Heather, can you speak to, I mean, you alluded to this under the companionship stuff, or I would say, it's a people pleaser. If it doesn't have personality, but if it did, it seems like, particularly the chat bots they want to be liked by me.
Yeah.
I've found a few occasions where it's been wrong. But to your point about it being a predictor, it's almost like it knows where I'm headed and it's predicting and it's almost agreeing with me and it's making the case.
Yes.
It speaks about like it's how is the accuracy of its thing, and I can't give an example. I've been trying to think of one, but would you agree with me there are cases where it's wrong?
Yeah.
Whether
Yes.
it's doing the math wrong or where it's making the
Yeah.
wrong, it's stating the wrong fact.
Yeah.
And so I guess it's just a point to say, how do we question it, or how much is that a public thing that we're just trusting whatever it tells us
Yeah.
too much?
Yeah. So in case you couldn't hear, the question was more around like trusting what it's telling you or responding with, and is it truthful or not truthful? So two things. One is hallucinations, with I think you may have heard of. That's just where the model, the easiest way to explain it is when it ingests all that information and it matches patterns. Sometimes when it matches patterns, it gets the pattern wrong. And so it comes back to you with what it thinks is right because it's a pattern matching machine. That's kind of technically how it works. So that does happen. But I think your bigger question is like, it's agreeable with. So if you look at ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, they have something behind the tool called a system prompt. A system prompt is a technical term, but the easiest way to understand it is it's the instructions for the tool, for the chatbot. It's like, and it is a massive, it is like, sometimes I think Claude's like 100 pages. It's just huge. So people get these. They either steal them and put them online, say, here's the master prompt, or someone from inside like leaks it. It's like a whole game that's happening right now. So you can see their master prompts. They are, short answer to this is, they are programmed higher up, like in their priority list, to be agreeable and help. Well, sorry, not agreeable, helpful. So when you have a chatbot that's being helpful, helpful is a subjective word. Helpful is a subjective thing. These things are pretty subjective. And so it is going to default to trying to help you do whatever you're doing. And that's actually how OpenAI explained the suicidal thing, is that because it's like, it was programmed to be helpful. It's like helping in that, but it just didn't flag the other stuff. So that is I don't know if it's primary or secondary, tertiary or whatever, but it's just one of those things. Agreeable was a thing that they were programmed to do. It's definitely ChatGPT a year ago, and they changed it. They realized that the agreeableness, the sycophantic nature of it was not good and like not helpful. So they tweaked the master prompt. When they say like they tweaked the thing, that's what happened. So it's very hard to tell. And that's what's so powerful about these tools. It's very hard to tell. And it's very easy to go down a rabbit hole where you think that it is giving you the best information for you. I'll just use a business case or school case. Like you're studying a topic. You're asking it subjective questions about a topic, and you're asking it for maybe opinions on a topic. It is going to go with what it thinks you think. So same thing with social media algorithms. You're getting fed stuff. Kids are getting fed stuff that what they think. And so we're going all down these rabbit holes. And so that is what is kind of happening with these tools as well. It's trying to understand your intent, what you think, how you behave. It's going back to your memory. And it's saying like, oh, cool. I know Chris thinks this about his business, so I'm going to tell him this. And so that's where you have to be careful. But the last thing I'll say is like, what to do about that. I tell people all this time, in the business world, is like, you should be pushing back on these machines just like you would push back on an employee who works for you, or even like a boss. Like you should have it state their case. Like, tell me why. Like, what are your sources? Like stuff like that. It sounds kind of counterintuitive to some of my presentation. This comment's going to sound that way. If you treat it like a human and you think of it kind of like a human, I think it's a lot better to interact with. It'll give you a lot better responses. I'm not saying to or to humanize these things, but I am saying like that's just kind of how they're trained. So anyway, long answer to your question, but
You talked a lot about surveillance, parent surveillance, and just being
Yeah.
involved, becoming more aware, familiar with what our kids are seeing and doing. But then I heard you, I was going to ask you, well, what kind of things can we do? Can you see the history? Can you do, search? Can you put filters on it? Like, don't do a relationship or, something like what are the things that you can do? It sounds like we're still behind in that.
Yeah, you can't do much. No, the only restrictions that there are right now that work are work accounts and school accounts when it comes to Gemini, like Gemini AI mode. There are restrictions on those two things because they're part of like a larger enterprise, and they've focused some time on that. So like if you've got AI mode through a school, what it can give you is going to be limited. And I even think to the point where some of these machines, or all the machines, they'll go search the web for an answer and like come back. And so, which is helpful, very helpful actually to do. But I think, and don't quote me on this, but I think with school mode, they don't have access to the web. So it's just what it's able to respond. So that's like a good thing because I think the responses are limited. But anyway, short answer to your question is, if you have a son who's 16, who has a chat account, there is, as far as I know, unless this has changed in the last like week or two, there's nothing you can do in his account to change how it would respond Like it's just going to respond. It knows that he's 16 because you can sign him up with a parental permission. But again, what I've found and what I've read is that it's not going to be that limited for him. So I want to just kind of stress that and like push like cautiousness over anything. Yeah.
My follow-up question is, so in our specific to our Homewood City schools, we don't have kids with devices throughout the day, but they do have their Chromebooks. I'm just wondering, are they using, are teachers using AI with part of the curriculum? Are they exploring some of these? And I don't think that, I'm not saying that they shouldn't. I'm just saying, what kinds of things are they doing if they are using?
Yeah.
What kind of instruction are our kids getting in school about this? Because up to today, I haven't had a lot of conversation with it, with my own at home, except just asking questions because I don't have the answers
Mhm.
and just kind of learning what they know.
Mhm.
But I'm just wondering, what is happening at our schools for our kids to become more educated on
Yeah.
this subject.
Out of my league. I defer.
This is our director of technology.
Okay, director of technology. Come on down.
I'll say that we are still very much building a lot of our AI best practices. We have a committee of teachers called our ITAC committee, our Instructional Technology Advisory Committee, and they've been working a lot this year. And our next meeting is actually focused on AI. So one of the things that we've really been talking about is making sure that we do have some best practices in place for both teachers and students. I will say that we purchased a program called School AI, and it is designed for teachers to use with students. It's got very strict guardrails on it. So we definitely have one of those in place. We are very, very protective of student data. So all of the other generative AI things, we've tried to keep out of students' hands until we can make sure that we've got the right guardrails in place. So with ITAC coming, having that meeting, starting to work on best practices, we're still building a lot of it out.
But to say, we have a Google Suite, so some of
Yes.
the built in.
Yes, we use Gemini. Teachers can use Gemini. It does have the guardrails built into that. Also, we've encouraged teachers not to use ChatGPT as much because we don't have as much control over what happens to the data through things like that. So.
Cool. Okay.
So considering that so much of, I guess as a parent, I'm less concerned about access through school to any of this, but I'm more concerned about, like you mentioned it in the social media accounts, like are there settings that we can go in and impose that would limit their access to it through
Yeah.
those accounts? That seems to be
Yeah.
my greater concern.
Yeah, I mean, you can go in Snap. I've done this. My kids don't have Snap, but I've just gone in there to test it out. As far as I know, we don't know if it's not that. You can go in there and turn off AI mode. Like there's literally like a switch that you can switch off. I think the default on Snap is that they have my AI. I'm pretty sure you should just assume, we should all assume as parents that the default is that it's on, unfortunately. I mean, I just think that that's what our mindset should be. And the reason why I'm not sure about it, because these things change every day and every week. But Snap, it's on. Instagram, it's automatically on. You automatically have it. You have to turn it off. Same with WhatsApp and Facebook. And then TikTok, I have no clue. They're on a whole nother playing field right now, and meaning like it's hard. They're changing all the time, and they're introducing all kinds of new AI stuff. But yes, I mean, you as a parent, if anyone under the age of 18 has access to these apps, all of these apps now at this point have a toggle where you can turn it on and off. It's just different per app.
And they can't
No, if you have your parental permission set, then no, they cannot. There are certain things they cannot override on those. Like a Snap, I think you still have to approve who you can chat with. I think if you have a child account, they may have changed that, but you had to approve friend. You can change the setting where you approve friends, stuff like that. So, and they you have a special parental password. Sometimes it's just a 4 number code, and that's kind of a common thing, as y'all probably realized. And so you can turn it on and off with that as a parent. You can do that. And I think even in Snap, you can do it through a website. So you can log in as your parent, or maybe it's not Snap, maybe it's Meta's stuff. You can log in and then change it through a site. You don't even have to have their phone on you.
So I have a suggestion for people who are tech savvy. Someone needs to use AI to create us a butler
Yeah.
that will
Yeah.
help parent our kids so that we can put in their accounts
Yeah.
and it just automatically.
Yeah. Yeah.
does it the way we
Yeah.
want it. you know?
Yes, I love that idea. I'm just going to say the problem with that idea is that the technology that these won't let you do that. And that's like a major thing where it's like, I wish we could do that. I wish we could create something that, changes screen time, with a Siri request, but you can't do that anyway. They put restrictions on it because,
Not good for business.
not great for business. Y'all, parents are not good for business for tech companies. So in case you did not know that.
To practice using it, but also helping you is asking it, how do I do this with a specific program? So like if your child plays Roblox, ask AI, how can I restrict Roblox for my child? And it's not always gonna give you the right answer, but it will give you ideas of how.
Yeah.
you can work with it. So you're not looking for you're getting AI to help you.
Yeah, AI is a good helper in that sense. Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
I like that. I'm gonna use that, like my little
Yeah.
helper.
Yeah. Here's a trick. I'll leave you with this trick. So because technology is always changing and these products are always changing and changing rules, if you go into the AI and you need some help with something like that, whether it's your parent or something you're doing in another area of your life, tell the thing to go search the latest product documentation and tell me blank. So if you have it, go search the latest product documentation of Roblox, because they just changed a bunch of stuff actually 2 weeks ago. Then the AI will know, oh, I'm going to go search the latest information. I actually think this was on the sheet. Someone else asked, like, sometimes chat acts like it's in 2024 or, because again, the training data is old. So, but when it has access to the web, you can search the web and find the most recent information. So when you point it in certain directions, it's way better. So it will read Roblox's product documentation. You got to tell it to do it thoroughly. Do it like your life depends on it, things like that. And then it will come back to you with like the answer. I did that with screen time recently because they changed some setting and it drove me nuts. And so I had to go read the documentation that Apple publishes. Hey, that's positive. They publish product documentation and it gave me the answer much more clear. Yeah.
To keep asking more questions, but I'm just wondering, oh, I know what it is. If we are wanting to, kind of protect ourselves, like
Yeah.
from knowing us.
Oh yeah.
If
Yeah.
we want to control that.
If you want to protect yourself from, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
What a blessing in so many ways.
Yeah.
But I still am protective, and just for me.
Yeah.
I was born at the wrong time. Like I really probably should have been more able to. But
The comment was they were born in the wrong time for those online. Yeah. Okay.
I want to be able to be
Yeah.
a knowledgeable, wise citizen in this system. But at the same time, I set up boundaries for myself just with human interaction.
Yeah.
And I want to be able to set up boundaries with my AI interactions. So like even just I've noticed in the last couple months now with my emails, I'm getting like a little AI synopsis.
Mhm.
And I noticed this like very recently. Like it'll just kind of sum it up and I'm like, where did this happen? Like what is this
Yeah.
about? And so I mean, I can choose to, and there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but I mean, like, these things are happening without my
Mhm.
consent
Mhm.
per se, and I'm just wondering, do I interact more with it so it knows kind of what's important to me, or do I just set boundaries where I'm just not gonna respond to this, like I might with the human that I don't want to interact with?
The question is, do you set boundaries with these machines? That's a personal preference. I mean, I will just give you the two scenarios. if you do set back, well, let me respond to one thing though, that you're probably all seeing this. Gmail, like the auto suggestions and auto, okay, so that's what I mean earlier about the default is on. So they're going to default to turn it on. So you got to go in there and turn it off. And it's, again, it's not a malicious intent. I don't think it's just like, that's just what they're choosing to do. Default on. You go in there and change the setting. I want AI setting, or they call it something else. You just got to turn it off. So that's one sort of comment. The other thing is like, do you share your data or do you not share your data? I think it's a personal preference. I mean, what happens with these tools, we didn't talk about this, but when you chat with it or when you put in a prompt and you have a conversation with it, the default setting is that it will take whatever you say or whatever you get it, and it can use that to train its next model. Like it can use that as part of its data that it ingests. And you can turn that off though. I mean, there's a setting that you can go, do not use my responses to train. That setting is supposed to be automatically turned off for kids. But if you don't want that kid, I mean, this is not like a situation where, or at least, I mean, unless something horrible happens, it's not a situation where it's just going to be like online. It's not going to be like released online. It's just that the data is going into, just like your credit card data is housed by Amex and in their cloud. It's like this stuff is being housed by OpenAI in their cloud. But it's, yeah, I mean, if you can, again, you can turn all that stuff off. You can turn off memory. You can turn off using this for train your models, and you can get as private as you want with them. Which if that's your preference, then you should do that. But unless you want the tool to really know you and like be your assistant, then yeah.
But at the same time,
Yeah.
it's interesting. It just feels like, it feels like it's a time to come in.
Yeah, I completely understand that and can empathize with that. Okay, that's it. We had about 20 stay on over. It's great. People started dropping off, but okay. Well, thanks everybody.